This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You are watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Okay, so Joyce has said that Anthony Joshua never mentions his name. Now, I want to get into his statement, but before I do, I think it's quite important to really remember that Anthony Joshua, and he's openly said this before, the only time that he will talk about other fighters is when either A, he's directly asked about them specifically, or B, he's already signed to fight them. His reason is too many fighters, and he's mentioned like Wilder and Tyson Fury, want him to mention their name all the time, and when he does, they don't fight him. So it's almost like he's clout chasing. So no, he's not going to mention Joe Joyce's name or anybody's name until he's pretty much going to be fighting them. Okay, so there's that one. Now, as far as Joe Joyce is concerned, as a fellow Brit, he makes me proud to be a British boxing fan. The way that Joe Joyce, in his very short career as a professional already, has just gone through the levels, British, Commonwealth, European, now he's interim WBO World Heavyweight Champion and mandatory challenger with a very, very impressive record for the amount of fights that he's had. So he's doing absolutely fantastic for British boxing, much like Fury has, much like Joshua has, and Dillian Whyte, and of course Daniel Dubois coming through now, and all that kind of stuff. So it's great. Anyway, Joe Joyce's statement on Anthony Joshua. Then we'll break it down a little bit. It's not a surprise because when does Anthony Joshua mention my name? Apart from when I was in the Olympics, since I turned pro, he didn't mention my name or Eddie Hearn. If you're not with us, you're against us. And I don't have millions of followers like Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury yet. Maybe it's because I don't have enough followers. If people want to see it, let's make it happen. I guess it just needs to be built up. And when he has no choice but to fight me, he will fight me. Because it's a big fight. Olympic gold versus Olympic silver. Maybe the medals could be swapped. I think I'm more deserving. He's not gun shy, but he's apprehensive about being knocked out because he's been knocked out a few times. He prefers to be on the back foot and out of danger. It will tell when we see him rematch Dillian Whyte. Because in the Dillian Whyte first fight, he was getting hit with big shots. He was wobbling on his feet, but he was still coming forward. Something obviously changed after the Andy Ruiz Jr. loss because he's still a good fighter and there's plenty of interesting fights for him and I'd like to fight him as well. Joe Joyce's statement. Now, as far as him having millions of followers and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I don't think that's something that should even be important. How many followers you've got on social media, if you've got a blue tick or if you don't. It should be about where are you ranked and what are the boxing fans saying. That's what it should be about, not how many followers you've got. And Joshua's never said that about any of his opponents. Fury has, Tyson Fury, he said that about Joe Joyce, that Joe Joyce needs to build his profile up a little bit before he fights him because his own wife, Paris, has got more followers than Joe Joyce. That's mad, right? Now, as far as him saying that Anthony Joshua has been knocked out multiple times, unless, of course, he's talking about some things he knows about sparring that we don't know about, that maybe Joshua's been knocked out a few times in sparring. Of course, we know about like the David Price one, but maybe Joe Joyce is familiar with some other ones. Maybe that's what he's talking about, because he can't be talking about the professional game because he hasn't actually been properly knocked out as a professional. Now, he got stopped by Andy Ruiz Jr., but he was stopped on his feet after he kept getting back up again. And then he beat Andy Ruiz Jr. in the rematch against Alexander Usyk. He got beat on points twice. He nearly got knocked out in the first round. In the first fight, that's for sure. But he hasn't been knocked out multiple times. Now, quite where this needle's come from, maybe it's just rivalry between Joe Joyce and Anthony Joshua, I'm not too sure. But as far as Joshua not mentioning his name, well, he has spoke about Joe Joyce before, and he said if he fought him, he'd knock him out in the first round like he did before. For those of you who don't know, they fought in the amateurs. Anthony Joshua stopped him in the first round. But that was then, this is now, they're both two different fighters. Now, as far as Anthony Joshua being not gun-shy, but apprehensive, before the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight, a lot of people were saying Joshua's got no defense. He's very good at coming forward. If he hits you, he'll knock you out, all that kind of good stuff. But he's very leaky. And at some point, he's going to get hit. It's a heavyweight division. One punch changes everything. He found that out the hard way against Andy Ruiz Jr. Now he's added that defensive awareness about his game. And people criticise him, say that now he's scared and all that kind of stuff. No, he's just adding his defensive game. He knows he's going to get hit. It's a boxing match. You don't go through a boxing match and not get hit, okay? Something that Joe Joyce needs to look at as well. So far, it looks like he's got a great chin and all that kind of stuff, but everybody's got that button, especially in the heavyweight division. Doesn't matter who you fight. These are big men, 18 stone plus. They hit you. At some point, you're going to go. Could be a left hook, a right hook, an uppercut, overhand right, a punch in the back of the head, a gut punch. These guys punch very, very hard. And if Joe Joyce doesn't tighten up his defensive game, he's going to get stopped himself at some point. Okay? And also you have to remember, again, I've mentioned this on a couple of occasions before, is that Joshua, in his first 13, 14 fights, he was knocking out people in the first couple of rounds. He's just blitzing through them. Then he fought Dillian White, he had a bit of a scare. Then, of course, he fought Charles Mine, became world heavyweight champion. When you become world heavyweight champion, you get a target on your back. Your learning days are pretty much gone. And, of course, he unified twice against Parker and Vladimir Klitschko. It was Klitschko, then Parker. And, of course, mandatory after mandatory and all that kind of good stuff. So he never really had the kind of opponents that, say, Tyson Fury had. Tyson Fury done it perfectly. Done it perfectly. Where he took those learning fights. He didn't jump into a world title fight straight away. Anthony Joshua, when he became world heavyweight champion, not only did he have a target, but opponents knew they were going to get a big payday as well. Bigger paydays than they would against anybody else. And that's something you have to credit Tyson Fury with, is that he took his time learning his craft. He refused to jump before he could walk. Because when you look at, say, Tyson Fury, he doesn't need his corner. And I've said this before, Tyson Fury just needs somebody there on fight night to put Vaseline on his face and give him a drink in between rounds. Fury doesn't need his corner to tell him what to do, how the fight's going. He knows, because he's been there, he's experienced it. He's been dropped, he's been hurt. He's been on the receiving end of hometown decisions, if you like. He's been through all that. Joshua skipped that period. And Joshua relies a lot on what's happening with his corner. He follows his corner's instructions to the letter without making the adjustments himself. Again, from the outside looking in, maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's how it appears. And when Joyce is saying he acts apprehensive, it's not that he's gun shy, he's apprehensive. Maybe he's caught between styles. Maybe he has been, because his natural style is to jump on people and start throwing bombs. That's his natural instinct, counter-punching, hand speed, heavy hands. That's his natural thing to do. When you've got your corner telling you, just use the jab, stay on the back foot, win the round, all that kind of stuff, he's caught in between styles because he listens to his corner. Rather than go, well, this isn't really working, this is what I'm going to do. He relies on his corner to tell him, right, this isn't working, now do this. Whereas Fury, he doesn't need that. Again, it's all about the build-up, okay? Now, as far as a fight between himself, as in Anthony Joshua and Joe Joyce, I would love to see that fight. That would be a great fight. But as Joe Joyce said there, if you're not with us, then you're against us. It's like you're the enemy. Well, that goes both ways. I mean, can you imagine the negotiations right now between Anthony Joshua and Joe Joyce? Eddie Hearn, he's going to be saying Anthony Joshua, he is a huge star. He brings money to the event, eyes and ears and all that kind of stuff. He's the A-side. Frank Warren, no. Joe Joyce is WBO interim champion, mandatory challenger. Joe Joyce has got what Anthony Joshua wants. He's the A-side. And you're going to have this boxing politics, things that we don't care about, but these are the things that either make or break a fight. Right? Now, as far as the Olympic medal thing is concerned, we know that the Rio 2016 Olympics is being investigated. Quite what's taken so long, I don't know, where Joe Joyce's fight against Tony Yoka, where he got the silver medal, is being looked at, and they may well overturn it. They may well overturn it. Of course, they're looking at the Michael Conlan situation and others in that as well. Some people say Joshua shouldn't have got the gold and whatever else. Of course, he's having a dig, which surprises me a little bit, considering that Joe Joyce, Anthony Joshua, they've known each other for a long time. You know, they've been in Team GB together, they've sparred together and all that kind of stuff. And I was always under the impression that they got on quite well, but clearly it's now just more rivalry than it is friendship, and it's fair play. He's in my way, he's got what I want. I want to fight Anthony Joshua, I want to get paid very well, I beat Joshua, my profile goes right the way up. Okay, but where Joshua doesn't mention Joe Joyce's name, well, Joe, Why don't you call out other people? Like, when you tell Frank Warren Queensberry or S-Jam, get me Arsenbek Makhmadov, get me Jared Anderson, get me Dillian White, get me Martin Bacoli. Why don't you come out and do interviews? Listen, man, you can do it with me if you want. Just call out Tyson Fury. Call him a big bum boss, a dosser and all that kind of stuff, right? Chastise him. You're scared of me. Do that. Because Joe Joyce has got a great resume, considering the amount of fights that he's had. A great resume. Daniel Dubois is on his resume. Joseph Parker is on his resume. Again, Joseph Parker, he's a guy who people said he couldn't be knocked out. Joe Joyce knocked him out. So again, Joe Joyce needs to look at that. Meaning that he also can be knocked out at some point. But him fighting, say, even Carlos Takam, he came from behind in that fight to win that fight. Bryant Jennings, he got hurt with a body shot against him. Good, solid fights for Joe Joyce. He's done fantastic. I'm very proud of Joe. So anyway, as I said, I hope we see this fight at some point. I'd love to see this fight. I'd love to see Joe Joyce against Anthony Joshua. Joe Joyce versus other people I've mentioned, like a Bacoli, a Dillian White, a Filip Hrgovic, and whatever else. Call these people out. Get them out. Get them out. Because Joe Joyce, unfortunately for him, he is WBO mandatory challenger, which means he's last in line. I said this a long time ago. He's last in line. As per the order of things, the WBA is up next with Daniel Dubois. Then it's going to be the IBF, currently Filip Hrgovic. And then it's going to be the WBO, currently Joe Joyce. So maybe do something about it. Go rematch Daniel Dubois, pinch his position. Go fight Filip Hrgovic, pinch his position. Get your title shot soon, rather than wait. Or in the meantime, fight the Bacolis, all these kind of ones. Why not? Anyway, I'd love to see Joe Joyce, Anthony Joshua. I'm sure you all would too. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you next video.